Hello, everyone, Brother Al McClaney with this week's stewardship video. And as always, before we go too far, let's read the disclaimer. No advice should be seen as recommendation. As I am not a licensed financial advisor, this is for educational purposes only. You want to do your own research. If you have a financial advisor or registered investment advisor, that's what they're there for, to give you advice. So this is a continuation of the series I've been doing really on counting the cost, latte factor. And if you all will remember, I have been very transparent, authentic, and I shared my latte factor, literally how much I was paying in a year's time regarding the Starbucks caramel macchiato venti, extra hot, extra shot of espresso, extra drizzle, $7.79 a pop. And saying that, what opportunity costs am I missing? And as a review, Luke 14:28 and 30, and this is the Message Bible. Is there anyone here who planning to build a new house doesn't first sit down and figure the cost so you'll know if you can complete it? If you only get the foundation laid and then run out of money, you're going to look pretty foolish. Everyone passing by will poke fun at you. He started something he couldn't finish. And you may not be saving for a down payment of a house or anything related to a house project, it could be what your project is saving for retirement, or saving for a child's education fund, or paying down debt, or just maybe building an emergency fund, or just creating margin in your life. And your latte factor. And if we review, David Bach wrote a book called The Automatic Millionaire. And one of the chapters talks about the latte factor. And whatever your latte factor is, it could be golf, it could be some expensive hobby, which is okay if you plan for it, if you budget for it, if you have it in your what we like to call spending plan versus using the word budget, but you plan for it, then that's okay. We're not saying you're going to be on ramen noodles for the rest of your life, or eating, totally excluding all fun, quote, in your life, but you want to plan for it. And here's the idea that David Bach comes up in the Latte Factor. He's saying small daily expenses, and he used the example of lattes, add up. And while we could redirect them to savings to build wealth. And here's the one I'm tackling today. Here's a latte factor. And it's eating away at my future. Am I eating away at my future? Genesis 25, verse 29 through 34, New Living Translation says, one day when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness, exhausted and hungry. Esau said to Jacob, I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew. All right, Jacob replied, but trade me your rights as the firstborn son. Look, I'm dying of starvation, said Esau. What good is my birthright to me now? But Jacob said, first you must swear that your birthright is mine. So Esau swore on the oath, thereby selling all his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew. Esau ate the meal, then got up and left. So for momentary self gratification, Esau sold off his future. And this was part of a point that Pastor Davis, who was preaching a sermon, was talking about. And I read it that way. I said, hey, I wonder if my eating out is affecting my future, right? Am I taking money that could be better served in the area of building wealth, paying down mortgage, or any other thing besides just the amount of times that I eat out? So I'm embarking upon this journey to start looking at how much opportunity cost, like the lattes, is eating out. And this is taking me a couple of weeks because I eat out a lot. I mean, I'm just being transparent with you all. I do. And I know that number is probably going to be a big number. So I'm probably going to limit it to maybe the 30, 60, 90 days so I can just handle it the first go around and then start working to it. But the idea is to being aware. And I know what you're saying. Well, Al, I don't eat out. Well, what else could be there? What could be your stew that you are eating away now and sacrificing your future? And it's not birthright, but future, future investment, future house, what, you fill in the blank of what that is. And here's a couple of things I've been, wrestling with, what type of electronic application do I want to use? I have spreadsheets, but I want to move over to an app. And you see the different ones that are depicted here. The idea is, one that may work for me may not be ideal for you. So find the one that's best for you. And so I've got some listed here. Every Dollar, which is Dave Ramsey. Faith FI has one. You Need a Budget, which is YNAB. Even your banks, like Wells Fargo, has a way of tracking spending now right on it, and Monarch. So look at some of these, and the idea is to find one that works for you. And if it's still just pen and paper, pencil and paper, spreadsheet, go for it. Whatever works. And ideally, it's going to be designed to track the spending, come up with a suitable budget, and we like to call it spending plan, how you're going to spend your money, and look for, are there places where opportunity costs are eating, I'm eating away at it. In my case, I know lattes was one, and the other one was eating out. So you'll be watching me as I go along this journey, and I challenge you to do the same thing. So I got this idea from Rochelle Glover, and she's teaching a class at our church online. She's known as the financial nanny. And one of the things she did, and this was like confirmation, she said, Al, I came up with that scripture years ago about eating away your future. And it was specifically targeting eating out. And so what she said she did is every time she wanted to eat out, she would take that money that she was going to eat out, take it home, and she was required, put it in a jar, and she would use that money later to go into savings or to pay down debt. So I began to think, okay, what if instead of eating out, I said, you know what? I'm not going to eat out. The cost that it would have been to eat out, I'm going to go home, I was going to fix something, and I'll take that money and maybe invest it. And so I looked at something interesting. If you go out on Charles Schwab, you can go into an area, it's called thematic investing. In other words, theme investing. And this one is food and leisure. And here is a graph of how dining out has been in the last this year to date, compared to the Standard and Poor 500 index. So typically it was riding along the same way. You can see the blue line represented several companies related to dining out. And here's the Standard and Poor 500. Now it has actually uh, started to invert. So as the S&P continues to go up, dining out has going down. I don't know. That could be an indicator of we've got some economic issues and people have started limiting their eating out. But I also saw this could be an opportunity because it's turned over a little bit and there's a conglomerate of companies that have gone down, and maybe this is an opportunity to go in and invest in those. Once again, not a recommendation, right? And here's a snapshot of those companies that made up what's in that graph. And this, again, this is Charles Schwab. Again, not recommending Charles Schwab, but you may want to look at it as a brokerage. But here's some of the uh, restaurants that were in that graph: McDonald's, Yum Brands, Yum China, Restaurant Brands International. I don't know what that is. That could be provides equipment for restaurants. Starbucks, Chipotle, Dutch Brothers, and Darden. No, you've got two coffee companies there depicted. And then if you want to just get an exchange traded fund that's in the area, there's one called EATS, EATZ. And here are the top 10 holdings, which includes some treasury I thought was interesting, some treasury notes that are in there. Nathan's, Potbelly, Brinker, Dutch, there's Dutch Brothers again, Red Robin, Darden. So that's the top 10 holdings. So, and guess what? It's been going down, just like we saw that graph. The high for the year was $31.61. It's currently closed on Friday at $21.31. So maybe what you do, opportunity cost, say, you know what? Every time I was going to eat out, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to invest it in this exchange traded fund, right? So again, not a recommendation. That could be something you may think about doing versus eating out. Let's own the companies that are in that area. So let's go and change gears. Let's take a look. Here's the slide I presented last week. This is the whole month because we are in the very beginning of earnings season. And this is all of October. So last week, We saw Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, Citi, and the earnings were okay. And in fact, the market sold off because it really wasn't happy with those earnings, American Express. But this week, and this is the week of the 20th, this week, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. So this is this week. We got some big names reporting: Coca-Cola, Netflix. I'm going to be interested in Tesla because I do have some Tesla shares. So there's prediction that they're going to knock it out of the park. One thing I was telling someone, I was observing, my doctor is kind of up north, where I went to an appointment, and I was telling some of the people I work with, Tesla is alive and well in this area, the Plano, Frisco, all that area. A lot of Teslas were driving around, so alive and well. So it's going to be interesting. American Airlines is reporting, and then we close out with like General Dynamics, healthcare, um, PNG, Procter and Gamble. So we've got some technology here, Netflix. We got Coca-Cola, it's consumer. We got 3M, which would be industrial, Newmont Mining, Procter and Gamble, General Dynamics, be industrial. So we got some big companies that are reporting the week of the 20th. So here's something interesting, also I want to look at, because of we've had the sell-off in the stock market, and we've also had unemployment tipping up. We've had some inflation still kind of in there. So the Fed, it looks like October 29th, this is the Fed probability to, which is the CME, which is Chicago Mercantile Exchange, is probability of a quarter point cut is now at 99%. So the current rate is 425 basis points. They're saying a quarter point at the October 29th meeting. But also look at this. Here's the December meeting, 94% chance. So they're, you know, calculating in or projecting two quarter point rate cuts before the year's out. So that's a half a point. So with that, the market will take off. And typically October, November, December are some of the better months for a rising market or a bull market. And let's close out as we always do, looking at the overall market. Here's QQQ, which is more focused on the NASDAQ, which is technology, smaller companies. All right. We see had a kind of, there's that big sell off. Then we kind of stabilized and ended Friday on buying. S&P, same thing, sold off, kind of went back and forth for a couple of days and then ended with buying on Friday. So it'd be interesting next week to see, based on these earnings, especially Tesla reporting, how does the market respond. So that's this week's stewardship video. Again, hope you'll join me on this journey and challenge you also. Look for those latte factors that are in your spending plan. For me, I tackled the latte. And just to give you a report, twice I went to Starbucks last week. And that's including today, Saturday. So really last week, work week, one time. So that cut back from, 6 days a week. Want to keep that going. And now the next thing to tackle is looking at first, creating awareness by looking at how much am I spending, and hopefully, not even going to be hopefully, it's going to be sticker shock when I look at it and say, hey, I can do better with God's resources, with God's resources. So with that, that's this week's stewardship video. Remember, Jesus is Lord, therefore he's the owner, but we are his faithful stewards following his principles with his resources. We'll see you next week.